Hey crafty friends, it's Joy here for Heffy Doodle. Today I'm showing a fun hidden scene Christmas card, and I also have a fun little tip to create tufts of snow on your background. I'm going to start with my images. I'm coloring them with Copic markers. I've colored the multiples of images, but I'm going to show you what it is I'm doing, and you can see the caps for the colors that I'm coloring with. I'm using the Nuts About You stamp set and the Dear to Me stamp set. So we have some birch trees, we have some little tree stumps, mushrooms, a bird feeder, there's a cute little mouse, some birds, some deer, and some leaves. Those green leaves I want to use like hollyberry leaves, so we can add that to the birdhouse, which I thought would be really, really cute. Then I wanted to have some bluebirds, so there's a couple of the birds facing in different directions. Then there is a cute deer that's laying down. Then you have one standing up. That cute little mouse I just think is so sweet. And so these are the images that we're going to be using. The birch trees I kept really simple with C2 and 1 marker. Then we're using the W markers for the deer and the mouse, just to keep it in the kind of warmer gray color. And then red mushrooms, I just thought that that would be fun to have little pops of red, because this is going to be a snowy scene, so there will be a lot of blue going on, and I just thought having these little pops of red will make it feel more Christmas-like. So when I'm coloring with my Copic markers, especially on my critters, I like to start with my darkest color, then I blend out a little bit with my medium, and then I come in with my lightest and blend over everything. And I tend to do this twice because I feel like I get the best coloring when I do that. So I'm coming back in with that W7, adding the shadow areas. And then I will use the W5 to blend out over the W7 and a little further, and then the W3. I'm using the W3 and I believe W1 for the lighter areas on the belly and the face, and then a little bit of R30 for the pink on the ears, and I added some little cheeks so that way the critters can just look like they have rosy cheeks. So the birds, the deer, and the little mouse. I will be using the coordinating dies to die cut out all of the images. I'm just going to place that in place with some low tack tape from Heffy Doodle, and then run that through my die cut machine. Then we can start on the background. We're going to do some ink blending. Oh, excuse me. First, let's die cut some hills. I forgot we need to have hills and backgrounds to ink blend. So from white cardstock, I am using the Slimline Scenery dies, and I want to have a slopey hill, and then I kind of want just a nice little curved hill. This is going to be at the bottom part of our scenery. I'm also going to be die cutting more hills that are going to go on the front of this card. This has a hidden scene, so we're going to have a vellum overlay on top that opens up, and so when it's closed you can't really see a whole lot of the scene that's going on, which I really love. So there are the two hills for the scene. Now there's a straight piece here. This is going to be for the top part of our vellum overlay, and I'm going to explain why I did it this way. It was for me to make an easier fold to fold over the top part of our card base. So we'll get to that in just a little bit, but it makes it easy to add this overlay. Now I'm using some Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks. I'm starting at the bottom using Royal, then Surf, and then TIDEPOOL at the top. Again, I wanted this to feel very wintry, so I wanted to go with a lot of blues, but that's also why I brought in the red, so that it can also feel Christmassy. This is the Surf color that I'm blending into the Royal, and these look a little bit splotchy, but once they soak into the cardstock, it smooths out completely and just looks absolutely gorgeous. Now these inks are also water reactive, so we will do a little bit of spritzing on the background to just add some dots, which to me kind of looks like falling snow. So here is that TIDEPOOL ink, and I'm going to blend that into the Surf. Then I'm going to spritz it with my distress sprayer and then tap it off with a dry, I believe I did a dry rag or a dry paper towel, anything like that works. and then you're going to have some really fun effect on the back. So let's do that really quick. Pat it off, and then I took it away too quick for you guys to see it, but you guys will see it in a little bit. Now let's ink blend our hills. I am going to use the surf for this, and I'm going to be very light with it because I want the snow on the ground to not feel as dark, obviously, as the sky that we just created. So I'm just going to ink blend on the sides, not all the way across the top, leaving it a little bit lighter in the center. And then I have my front hill. This is the hill that's going to go on the front of the vellum piece, and you guys will see how we're going to put that together. I'm going to use some adhesive and adhere down my first hill. I do have this longer than my A2 sized background, but I like to do that because I can trim off the excess and just get everything lined up. I don't have to measure it perfectly because I'm not a girl who likes to measure anything. So I just like to have it go longer, and then I can just trim that off. So I've already laid out my scene. I do want to get these leaves on the bird feeder. Again, I want to treat this like holly. So I did die cut 3 of these, or color and die cut 3 of these. I will be using some Nuvo crystal drops in autumn red to add the little berries, and I want to do that now so it has time enough to dry enough that I'm not going to smear it. So I did that, and I'm going to put that aside. Now let's get the scene together. I also talked about showing you a fun little snow technique to create some little snow tufts. This is my favorite part of the card, and we're going to come up on that in just a minute as we're doing our layout, because I want to place the snow in certain areas and then able to put critters and things like that on top of it. So we have our trees in place. I tucked them behind the snow drifts. Then we've got our cute little birdhouse, which I'm being really careful to not touch the little red berries that we created. Then we have our mushrooms, and I wanted to add some white pin detail to that, so I'm just going to add the little polka dot, the little white dots on it. Those cute little red mushrooms, which I believe are like super poisonous, so you don't want to touch them in real life, I think, but they're super cute on the scenery. I've got this little wood stump here, and I'm going to let that hang off the edge and trim it off. I think that's really good for your images on your scene cards to go off to the side, well, on really any card design, because it makes your scene look a lot larger. We've got these cute deer. We're going to tuck those in place. I'm going to have a little bird sitting on top of that deer that's standing up. I want the mouse on that little tree stump, but we're going to add snow to that first. And then I want a bird on top of the tree house, but we needed to add some snow first. So I'm kind of getting all of the little pieces down that I don't need to add snow around. So we're going to be using the Marvy snow pin, and I love this thing, you guys. So it's kind of like some of those paint pins. If you push it down, the tip goes in and a lot of the stuff comes out. So what I like to do is do it on a scratch piece of paper, because my worst nightmare is I'm going to push down and it's just going to go all over my whole background and it's going to ruin it. So I do some on an extra piece of paper, and you can see a lot kind of squished out. And then I use it, I pick that up with the tip of my pen to add it to my work surface. There's still some coming out of the pen itself, but that's how I do it. Then you're going to heat it with a heat tool until it puffs up. Don't go longer than that because it will go flat, but look at that dimensional snow. You guys, I am in love with this. So I'm going to show you a little bit slow the second time, and then I'm going to speed it up because I do a lot of these little tufts of snow everywhere. I decided I needed my mushrooms down first, and then I'm going to add the snow here at the bottom. And I'm just doing one little section of snow at a time. I just felt better that way, but you could absolutely put your snow down wherever you wanted it and then heated it all at once. But look at how cute that is. Okay, so I'm going to speed it up now and go a little bit faster. I want some on that tree stump around the mushrooms, under this deer that's laying down. And I'm heating it on high. I have a heat tool that has a high and low, and you need to do it on high because the low, I think it would take forever if it, I'm sure it would do it, but it would take a really long time. And I don't know if it would ruin the product or not. A little bit below that trunk, and then on top of it, because I want that cute little mouse to be standing in the snow. Then I'm going to add my bird on top of the bird feeder because now the snow is done there. I'm going to add this bird here. He's going to be standing in the tuft of snow. And I decided to add a little bits to the trees, which I thought were really pretty. And then one more piece at the bottom right after I finished these leaves because it looked a little bare next to that bird. So, and I also added some below the deer that's standing. I could have just done this forever and ever and ever, you guys. I just loved it so much and it turned out so cute. Okay, on to the sentiment. This sentiment is from the Holiday Sentiment Duos. This says, Merry Christmas, here's to a season of warmth, comfort, and joy. And I have this on, I'm stamping this on the front little hillside piece that's going to be on the front of the vellum overlay. I am stamping it with cherry ink from Simon Says Stamp and their Pawsitively saturated inks. I love this red against the turquoise. Plus having the red on front just makes it really feel like Christmas. Now let's put our overlay together. I have a piece of white cardstock that's going to go on the inside of the vellum. And I'm doing this upside down and I'm going to trim off the excess because I want to make sure I'm getting it lined up to the top piece of the vellum. The vellum is cut to an A2 size. So this is the piece on the inside. I did use the slimline scenery dies because they are stitched and I added that there. Then I'm going to add to the front now. So this is the front bottom piece of the vellum overlay. I'm going to add that hillside piece. Now we can line up the back piece to the hillside to make sure everything matches. You can't see anything through the vellum, and then I can just trim the excess off that way. So now when you lift up your flap, you're not going to see adhesive on the other side. So you kind of need to sandwich your vellum between your pieces. Now this top front piece, I have that long for a reason, and I did ink blend that. I didn't show it off on camera. I'm leaving it long. I am not going to be trimming that off because this is where we need to fold it. And where I'm folding it is right above the line of where the vellum stops. Does that make sense? The top of the vellum. So now that folds over and goes right behind our scene card and we can adhere that down. So we have a nice flap that's going to hang on and then we can open up our vellum piece. This whole thing will be attached to an A2 sized card base. I'm going to add some score tape because I want this to be really strong to that back flap. This is the flap that's going to go behind the scene on the back side of the scene. I'm going to put this in place and then I can just adhere this down. I'm going to make sure I'm lined up nice and straight because that score tape is really tough and it's not going anywhere. So I'm going to put that in place and now we have this cute scene card. Look at how darling this is, you guys. I just love that it's a hidden scene. You lift up that vellum flap and I think the vellum is so pretty and frosty. And then you have this really cute Christmas snow scene on the inside. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you feel inspired by this video. Thank you again and have a wonderful day. Bye.